Welcome to the internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, quote, Build the Fourth West Trax, unquote, Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today we're talking about transit in Calgary. How'd you say it?
Calgary.
I can't say it right.
Yeah. You can say it however you want.
Okay, well, Calgary, Alberta, and why it's a great example of how to make transit work in North American cities. All this after the news.
Do. Is that even the right sound?
No.
Oh.
Okay, I'm used to it now.
What's the right sound?
I don't know. I can't remember, but that's not it. On February 6th, New York City's MTA unveiled its first ever open gangway train, kicking off a new future for rapid transit in the Big Apple. The trains are to be known as the R211 and feature openings between the cars that are about 8 inches wider than the standard doors. The trains are meant to increase capacity on crowded subway trains and to contribute to a modernized image for the MTA's fleet.
What, so people can go between the cars without falling off and dying?
Nobody was falling off and dying.
Oh, I heard about that in the news.
Openings between the cars?
Yeah, so you know like the dealio that goes between the two halves of the Trax train? It's like that, but really, really narrow because New York, like a lot of open gangway trains, like in other countries are pretty big space in there, the size of the space that's there on a Trax train. But this one is just think door between trains and then add 8 inches and it's just like a metal tube. So it's a little interesting.
So they're making it wider? Or thinner, wait.
They're making the section between the cars wider
8 inches
and walk
wider?
through with no doors, yeah.
Fancy.
Is that so?
So a couple more people can stand there and people can move freely between cars.
Yeah, okay. That seems fine.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not
everyone
gonna
was
get excited about that.
Everyone was freaking out about it because open gangway trains are one of the big metro nerd things that people who are really into metros are into, along with platform screen doors and such. So
good for them.
Good for them. It's a happy day.
I'm not gonna be excited about that personally, but if someone is, good for them.
Yeah, and I mean, supposedly with open gangways, you can increase capacity on any given train by 11%.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
That could be kind of, useful in New York.
Here's a quote about the safety issue from a news article. At this time, it appears her death was accidental. The MTA prohibits riders from walking or riding between moving subway cars due to the high risk of injury and death. 7 people died from falls between moving cars in 2018. End quote.
7?
In 2018?
Yeah.
In the year of our Lord 2018, who is doing this?
I don't know. It's it's the general public. What did you expect?
I mean, I guess if you get 1.8 billion riders, but still.
Yeah, you think you would hear about it the first time and be like, oh, that's such a bad idea.
I'm not going to
do
walk
that now.
I'll wait until the next station, get out of the train, and go to the next car.
Yeah, well, 7 people in 2018 is 7 people in 2018. That's a good thing to solve.
That's 7 less people in 2019.
I legitimately didn't think that's a thing because, on FrontRunner, we have, the little accordion deals between cars.
I think you might forget how old the subway is.
God damn it.
You literally set a timed alarm to go off during recording time. This is so bad. I'm not even impressed anymore.
Fine.
Anyway, Gap, good, I guess.
No.
Yeah, it's another Darwinism thing. I support none.
Great, you support platform gaps,
to weed
gaps
out the
between
weak.
train cars too.
That's right. Okay, moving on. In international news, leaders of several British railway unions are warning that the current rail strike could last as long as 2026 if an agreement is not reached. RMT union drivers walked off after years of delayed pay cuts and other issues. Hopefully, a good agreement can be hammered out so that rail service can be resumed in the British Isles.
Which is very unlikely because England
hates poor people. Almost as much as it hates, islands without a British flag on them.
Yes. Well, let's just say England is England, and let's not deal with that.
Imagine paying your labours.
What?
What?
No. No, we couldn't do that.
Well, I would not be shocked if the strike went past 2026.
That would be kind of funny. Although it would be terrible for the climate. Like, because you get all these, like, guys like, well, bruv, I got gas up my, car.
This
Gotta
is
put petrol.
Gotta
in the
petrol
car.
up the car.
this is like the UK, right? You remember this? There are several places it's physically impossible for that many people to drive to.
And they do it
Watch
anyway.
them. You've seen Manhattan.
Yeah, and the capacity of the automobile system there is low.
Yeah, for some reason, every time
Give it a try.
member of my family goes to New York, they all take a cab from the airport.
I mean, that's kind of understandable because the air train sucks. But,
Still,
And then proceeds to take the subway.
I just think of stuff like that in money terms.
yeah,
I'd
it
rather
probably
not.
would save you some money
Yeah,
to take the air train.
but either way, that's not in the news today. So
No. Breaking news, air train should be cheaper. Also, I would like to note that we have an inversion again after the inversion cleared yesterday from the snow. Because people, have to drive everywhere and U.S. Magnesium has to pump, arsenic into the atmosphere or whatever.
But-
So why do we subsidize driving so hard in the great place in which we live if we would like the air to be better?
Quote, great, unquote.
freedom! Exclamation
Yeah,
point.
my freedom to park wherever I want conveniently without charge.
My freedom to sit
Cause
in
I'm
traffic
proud
every morning.
to be an American, cause at least I know I'm free.
Sing it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well-
Silence, communists. Alex, can you edit in that meme with the crab with the laser eyes? Silence, communists.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can make that happen.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
firing my lasers.
Let's do the show.
So, Calgary. It's a city of about 1.3 million, the second largest city in Western Canada and the largest in Alberta. Calgary is situated on the Canadian Prairie, and its central business district is located on the banks of the Bow River. Not the Roe River, the Bow River. The Roe River is the shortest river in the world, but the Bow River is not.
It's a regular river.
Normal size.
Normal size.
Sweet.
Well, I mean, having seen, the incredible vastness of, the Columbia, the Missouri. I've never seen the Mississippi, but I imagine, I can think about it. I'd call that a creek, but,
Compared to anything you'd find in Utah?
Okay, yeah, well, compared to anything you find in Utah, it's like the freaking Amazon.
Yeah.
So, also, unlike most American cities, or I should say North American cities, except Vancouver, which is its, closest neighbor that isn't Edmonton, no downtown freeways, really. Sort of half of one, but not really.
Cool.
Round of applause for that, right?
Yeah, we do appreciate a city that hasn't torn its historic urban fabric to absolute shreds.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just
replaced
a
it
tiny
with,
bit.
And
Just a
replaced
tiny
it with
bit.
concrete walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, downtown Calgary is, parentheses, or was, pandemic, yada yada, close parentheses, one of the densest areas of employment on the continent, meaning that a high number of office jobs, especially for such a small city, are uniquely inaccessible by car. This necessarily lent itself to good transit usage, because,
The stick and carrot and stick.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard you right. You said continent? On the continent.
Yeah. There's 200 acres in downtown Calgary that have 300,000 jobs in them.
Whew.
That's crazy.
That sounds very tall.
Yeah, it's very tall, very dense. Their downtown is not large, but it's just all large buildings and a lot of office workers.
I'm picturing the Emerald City from The Wizard of Oz.
Well, we can look it up. Let's look it up. Keep in mind, this is for a city of just over 1 million people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Looks nice.
Whew.
Yeah. Quite a view, I guess you would say.
Meanwhile, Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Now here's an even better one. Now it has the Rockies
Oh,
in the
yeah.
background.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Huge.
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Yep. It is. It's
good
a
for them.
Cities are good, actually.
Interesting concept.
Okay, so we have this, super dense downtown core. You'd figure that there might be something of a density gradient, right?
There usually is.
You would hope
places.
so. Yeah.
Wrong. Outside of, downtown Calgary and a few adjacent neighborhoods, it is just, suburbs.
Flat sprawl.
Like Denver?
Like Denver, yeah.
Don't out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very, very much like Denver. Just like, curvy roads, weird crap.
Very inaccessible.
Very
awful.
Well, yeah, kind of awful urban form, if we're being honest. But despite development patterns being very car-oriented outside of downtown, yada, 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 transit usage is and was very high in Calgary. Pre-pandemic, they did about 100 million trips a year in a city of 1.3 million people. So get that through your head real quick. How many trips per capita is that? About, 70. Compared to Portland's, for example, 54. Salt Lake City, greater metropolitan areas, 24.
That's mad.
And Reno, Nevada's like -3.
Yeah, well, and Boise, Idaho's just over 1. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, quite impressive, right? So today, we're going to explore Calgary's transit and how it can help us build a better model for suburban transit here in the United States of America. Because, you gotta get people going places not in a car somehow, and you can't, do density overnight. And also, I would like to disprove the fact that you need density for transit to work, period.
So what's the historic reason for this weird
good segue.
density gradient in Calgary? Like, why is it just like a right angle?
Well, basically, Calgary didn't really exist as like a large metropolitan area until like the 60s.
What happened before the 60s?
Kind of a frontier town. Like, Canada's development pattern in the West was a lot later than the United States, partially because it's colder and worse to live in. And because, migration was just in general a little bit slower because Canada's a different country than the United States. So, in 1909, the year when the Calgary Street Railway was formed and the first streetcars were introduced, there were like 30,000 people in Calgary in 1909.
So actually, like,
small city, yeah.
Small city.
And it didn't really take off until, like I said, the 60s. And what kind of development did, North America build in the 60s?
Lay sprawl. Then how do we end up with all these, like, big buildings downtown and that big, like, head office city vibes?
Well, head office city is very, like, compatible with suburban sprawl.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you have your house with, 2 kids, a white fence, and a dog in the suburbs. You drive, or kind of uniquely in Calgary's case, probably take, the Blue Arrow bus or whatever. That's what they called their express service in the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
And you go to work, and you go home.
All right.
So basically what I'm saying is having a dense head office city isn't really incompatible with, like, massive amounts of suburban sprawl. Just look at, like, New York City, which is the largest head office city, period.
That's cool.
There's just, literally hundreds of miles of sprawl to service it.
So they just grew up after the phase that cities like Salt Lake went through of having, like, middle-density streetcar suburbs or whatever.
Yeah, there aren't too many middle-density streetcar neighborhoods in Calgary. Like, the majority is very suburban, is what I'm trying to, poke a stick at here.
So speaking of said Calgary Street Railway, I think we're in for the exact same streetcar story as literally every time.
Yeah, well, to make it, short and sweet, streetcars expanded until the 30s and 40s for, like, only 20, 30 years.
Because they grew up late.
And then they started doing bustitution. I know you guys think that that's a very funny word because it sounds like prostitution.
That's not why I'm laughing. It's just a funny word.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I didn't even think
that.
about the prostitution aspect.
Okay, well, I assume that you were laughing at it for an appropriate reason.
Bus.
Average UCA employee.
Well, look, when you deal with the public like I do,
Well,
you assume the worst.
now I'm going to think about that.
Yes.
Only bus.
I mean, that would be pretty base. Like, anyway. I'm not going to speculate on, like, a transit-oriented prostitute service. But, or I shouldn't say prostitute. Sex worker is the right term. But, like, you know.
Yeah, I think it could take off.
Like,
But we'll see. We'll see what UTA does.
We're environmentally friendly sex workers, so to zero emissions,
Low carbon footprint.
low carbon footprint. We're not going to drive to your house. We're going to take the bus.
Yeah.
So,
Top 10 reasons to run all-night bus service.
No, because it will encourage stuff like that.
I see no problem. This is growing the economy, Alex.
Hey, oh yeah. Another hey.
Economy.
You got me there. You got me there.
The line does in fact go up. So,
The economic argument is always a good one in Utah.
in Utah. Parentheses in Utah, maybe close parentheses. Yeah, so they renamed themselves to be the Calgary Transit System, and this is still a private company at this point. And then beginning in 1950, they'd sort of replaced all the streetcars with trolley buses because, you know, why tear down the wires when you could not?
This is true.
I have nothing wrong with trolley bus.
And then they got rid of them in 1950 and did diesel because...
Because diesel will always be cheap.
Well, I mean, it was...
It was probably cheaper to operate at the time, especially given that, you know, other people were maintaining the roads.
Yeah, and, you know, as we discussed, that 1950, 1960 is kind of when Calgary kind of, you know...
Diesel's also very cheap to scale because you don't need infrastructure
they
or
started
whatever.
because unlike, you know, most American cities, Canadian cities, when they started building suburbs, actually put transit service to them a lot of times.
Concept.
And so, you know, as they're expanding all of this massive new suburban sprawl, you got to get a bus there somehow,
Toronto
and
be
building
like-
a whole ass trolley bus is kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Fair reason.
And all you get in exchange for that money is, you know,
Money.
electrification, money, higher
It
quality
was the
service.
50s. We had lead in the gasoline. We did not care.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so the last streetcar ran the same year in 1950. It's preserved in Heritage Park to this day if anyone wants to, you know, visit Calgary to see the last Calgary streetcar.
I'm glad
It's
not still
in the
running.
park.
Yeah, it's in the park.
It's like parked there.
yeah, it's parked there. Like
Yeah.
on probably some decorative tracks, and it kind of just sits there.
I'm glad it's
You can go
not
take
still
a picture
running.
with it.
Sweet, yeah. Not running like New Orleans.
Imagine, you know, historic Calgary streetcars running on the CTrain network. That would be something, I will say.
It's like a train except self-disassembling.
Yeah, well,
Oh
the
my
trouble
gosh.
with trying to run a streetcar on the CTrain is that it's high floor. So you'd have to
Jump.
step down into the streetcar.
Oh my God.
probably.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Of course you do.
I like weird stuff. I don't know.
This is true. So then in 1972, Calgary Transit was municipalized, which is a word I just came up with. It's just like nationalized, but you get taken over by municipalities
I
instead
like
of by
it.
the...
It works.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was given the name that it carries today, Calgary Transit.
Wow.
Very original naming.
They came up with
Here.
this, like, sane, normal name remarkably early.
Yeah, right? Like, there's no...
There's
you know,
no the Amalgamated Street, Light, and Railway Company of West Calgary and East Calgary.
Well, and that's the other funny thing about Calgary is because since it was such a small transportation market, because, you know, private companies, so we're talking in markets here.
Competition.
Economics. I love economics.
Yeah.
I would be an economist if I wasn't a political science, but that's beside the point. Since it's such a small market, there was only ever really one
Big player in the
one
streetcar
player.
game.
Like, there wasn't any other street. There weren't, like, you know, the guys going around ripping out each other's streetcar tracks at night and then putting in new ones.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, fun, but also boring.
I can't get over the word municipalized. I like it.
Municipalized prostitution.
Municipalized State Street.
We should.
Yeah.
And 4th South between 3rd and State and 3rd just in general and 7th.
Yeah.
and 21st west of state.
We should
Well,
prostitution the light rail here.
We should not do that, actually.
We should prostitution.
Why do you hate me? Why do you want
could
me
put
to
some of
die
those,
and
like-
suffer on the inside?
More service.
You don't get more service like magically when you start running buses instead of
I'm pretty
trains.
sure that's how fossil fuels work.
Yeah, I think we're good. We figured it out.
Like
it's
the
not-
operating cost per passenger of buses compared to light rail is like, triple.
Well,
Well,
that's your opinion. So
No,
according-
that's the Federal Transit Administration's opinion.
yep.
do we need to get Climate Town on here or something?
It sounds like we might have to.
What were you gonna say, Kyle? Did you have something, or just drifted out of your head by our main argument?
Do you have anything witty?
Drifted out of my remaining brain cells.
Okay.
Okay, so modern Calgary.
Modern Calgary. So now we have a municipalized service, and we're kind of running. This isn't on the script, so you won't know this, but we're kind of running 3 tiers of bus service. They have local, they have express, and then they have the Blue Arrow, which is like a very proto BRT.
Meanwhile, UTA, which runs local, shitty express sometimes, and that's it.
Hey, we have commuter rail.
It's not a bus.
Yeah. Not yet.
Another reason why I might be moving to bracket redacted close bracket.
Yeah. Well, so what's the namesake of the Blue Arrow? Like, there's got to be something it's named after.
Oh gosh, now I gotta look this up. Hold on.
We can just cut this instead.
No, it's cool. This is a good idea. Actually.
It's got to. I don't think someone just woke up and came up with the name Blue Arrow. There's got to be
not.
There's got to be something behind it.
Blue Arrow. Okay, well I couldn't look at. Oh, hold on.
I'm loving the play-by-play.
Research intensified.
The reason they are called Blue Arrows is because they had blue signs.
So I guess someone did wake up and
Someone just
make
kinda
up
woke
with
up.
it.
Hey, I wonder what the
Decided.
cheapest color to get signs printed in is.
Blue. All right. What are we gonna call it? What's fast? An arrow. Blue Arrow. There we go. We
Okay.
got our express.
Promotion.
Yes.
So
You now make $100,000 a year.
Oh my goodness. So proto BRT, are we talking like nice stops spaced far
No,
apart?
just limited stops with
Okay.
some, I believe, some exclusive right of way, maybe.
Fancy.
Sort
Okay.
of.
Well, good for them.
I mean, that makes sense as an evolution of a streetcar, which could theoretically on occasion have exclusive right-of-way.
Quad track streetcar. I believe.
Top speed 25 miles an hour.
Gosh, I hate that. That's
Single
so
track. Single track or quad
So-
track.
But then in 1981 they opened the CTrain, which was their first light rail line. That's the second light rail line in America. Where do you think the first was?
San Diego? Trolley?
According to the internet, Edmonton and Calgary were before that.
Oh.
So Edmonton had the first light rail in North
Edmonton
America.
did?
Edmonton.
Jeez.
I know, surprising,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
Kind of a rough town back then as well, but Edmonton grew up a lot later than Calgary did even. So,
Goodness.
Well, good for Calgary.
so they had a second light rail system. It ran from downtown to the south. And this was sort of thought up in like everyone else, they had like a 15-year process where they're like, oh, it's the year 1967 and we sure love building subways. We're going to build a 2-line subway for Calgary.
And then Reagan. Oh, wait, wrong
This
country.
is Canada.
Okay, who can we blame this one on?
They just didn't do that and they just decided to make light rail instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's early. 81? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
it was finished in 81 too.
It was
so
finished?
Trains
So-
were running in
Goodness.
1981.
No way ahead of everyone else.
Yep.
That's the fall of 81.
And good Lord, Kyle.
I don't get that.
And it's kind of just been, continuously expanded since. So the last expansion was in 2014, when both the red and blue lines reached kind of like, Calgary as a ring road, reached the ring road.
Nice.
So they've actually been expanding it?
Yeah,
Over the
basically,
history?
basically the whole time. Like,
Oh.
there isn't more than like until, recently, more than like a 5-6 year gap between expansions.
That sounds like actually healthy for like the organization doing those expansions.
Yeah.
Institutional knowledge.
Well, and it was pretty cheap too, like especially for what you're getting in a CTrain versus like when you get a max expansion, what you're probably gonna get is some really stupid slow street running for at least a little bit. Whereas when you get a Calgary CTrain extension, you're probably gonna get subway on street.
So did it just get expanded so much because people liked it and there was demand for it and it was cheap?
Yes.
Okay.
And also because, as we discussed, nobody can drive into downtown Calgary. It's very hard.
Ooh. Does that mean there's a lot of parking rides?
Yeah, stations are pretty terrible. I will be completely honest with you. Like, CTrain stations are just mostly extremely large parking lots.
Okay.
They probably feel more like a commuter rail station than a light rail station.
Yeah, they feel like a commuter rail station. But you're getting ahead.
Sorry, I just had my mind.
You're too smart.
Too many questions.
It's nice that they have a positive ridership feedback loop here instead of a ridership death spiral.
Like everywhere else, yeah.
Yeah, not
Canada is just kind of built different in terms of transit sometimes.
Yeah, like building quality services, running connecting bus service.
Speaking of connecting bus service, since 2004, Calgary has also built out an extensive BRT system known as the MAX.
Creative.
And it costs twice as much per unit distance as the light rail?
No. It's meant to kind of fill in the gaps mostly between the light rail lines. So what, we've discussed in our most popular episode, what BRT should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't see it, but I'm making a really weird face at the moment from frustration.
Oh, no. So nice, cost-effective corridor projects.
Yeah, and several of them actually run on the routes of the previous Blue Arrow lines that we discussed. So
sick name.
I know. They should... Why did you move to... Blue Arrow is way cooler than Max. I
agree. Bring it back.
Like, I don't even know what Max stands for in Calgary.
Well, so... Is this BRT eventually going to get replaced with light rail, or...?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So some of it, maybe?
I think the orange line will be. I think the green line, which is the next line they're building, because they're building an all-new line now, because they
ran out of space.
They ran out of space for the other two lines, right? So they're building a low-floor rail system.
Why?
Cool.
I don't know.
Just use the same trains as the rest
I
of the
think
system.
to save money on stations, actually, because it does cost more to build a...
Oh, no.
It's like it's going to be the same alignment, like the same style of service and alignment.
I would just make the platforms taller.
Oh, wait, they'd be different rolling stock then, right?
Yeah, they're going to be using, like,
dumb,
I think what Ottawa uses, the Flexities, Bombardier Flexities.
Oh, then they're probably actually decent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think big old 2-car trains is what it's going to be. Like, but the cars are long. So...
I still question the mixed floor heights, but...
It doesn't matter because they're not going to run on the same alignment, so...
In the, fleet in general. As opposed to having all high floor.
Okay, so you want them to do a Denver and just continue to buy the same old train forever?
They could buy a new, shiny high floor train.
Well, they have. Because they don't have just, an ancient fleet.
Concept.
Wow.
I know.
What a good city.
Denver cannot relate.
UTA cannot
I've
relate.
liked Denver less and less these past weeks.
I am anti-Denver. Denver is the anti-Salt Lake
We
City.
should send them our garbage trains.
I heard somebody just... and this is entirely me joking. Of course, Denver is a fine city. But I heard somebody on Twitter describe it as, quote, Salt Lake City but without the interesting things or parts.
I believe
and that was someone, mind you, not from Salt Lake City, but from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
So...
Well, I would say they have a good platform then, for being from Chicago.
Yeah, they have better urban quality in their worst neighborhood than in our best neighborhood, so they can...
They have the bean.
They have the bean.
They have the bean.
They do have the bean.
Yeah.
So... Man, we're being, special today.
Beanin'.
So, now I kind of want to talk about why the CTrain is a little special. And number
why
one...
Why Canada's built different.
And why Canadian LRTs are generally built different than light rail in the States. So, number one, priority. When the CTrain does run on the street, which it does a fair bit, and with the exception of their, little transit mall they have downtown, it almost always has absolute priority. We're talking about crossing gates, at intersections, rather than just signal priority.
So it can continue at speed whenever it wants?
Yeah, it goes fast.
So they just are smart about it, then.
Yeah, and they're also not shy about, grade separations where they're necessary, side running instead of center running, so that you can do crossing gates at limited intersections in suburban areas. So it's just kind of well designed for speed. I am speed. One winner.
So we're building street running rail for the train instead of for the cars like we do around here.
Yes, that is actually an extremely good way of putting it. It's built more like the airport line, but better than the 4th South line, or the University line is, I guess, what it technically is.
Is that just because they like doing things correctly, or is it because limited cars downtown also helps?
Yes, and also because they are building this out into, pure suburbs. There is no, not necessarily any existing rail right-of-way for them to run in. So to have a decent speed across the thing, they have to kind of make sure that stuff has good priority, because it's almost always running in the middle of something or next to something or, under something.
So unlike Salt Lake or Portland, they can't just go really fast in all the rail corridors and then go really slow downtown and just be like, I don't know, riders went fast, now we're going to slow down. So
and it does go slow downtown, but as we discussed, Calgary's downtown is puny and just incredibly dense.
And I don't doubt that it can proceed reliably through downtown.
Yes.
Through the magic of functioning signals.
Yeah, it's only a mile.
Oh, okay.
1 mile.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Downtown. So,
nothing.
Number 2, high floors. The spirit of the metro never really died, it seems, as Calgary Transit uses huge 4-car trains of high-floor LRVs to accommodate its massive ridership and allow for accessible operations.
Finally. I want those here.
Yeah, don't we have low floors on the green and red line?
We have 70% low floor.
We have 70% low floor.
And 30% on the blue line?
No, 30% or 70% low floor means it's 70% of the way to being just on the ground.
Oh.
It means 70% of the floor space of the vehicle is low and the rest is not low.
Oh, okay. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
I made that up in my head and I thought that was...
you convinced me. But, so, unlike our blue line, which are high floor, right, they
match the platform.
They match the platform.
Okay,
it's
so
like a subway train.
So it's actually accessible.
Yes.
Okay. Well, they're doing it right then.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's a more comfortable and quieter ride.
Probably,
yes.
Yeah.
And, easier to maintain somewhat.
Well, I'm jealous. Okay.
So...
That's okay.
And they kind of need all this because... Okay, don't look at the screen. Look away.
I already looked at the screen.
How many people do you think... Just throw out a wrong guess then. How many people do you think rode the CTrain every day before the pandemic?
3. Because nobody rides transit and we should defend it.
Yes.
I'm going to go on the opposite spectrum and say... 800,000.
Okay, well, you're both wrong. But Alex is less wrong than Kyle.
Hey, my guess was closer.
I would say the guess was more accurate.
It was closer.
316,000.
I was closer.
2 lines, 40 miles of track through the worst suburbs imaginable.
Good goodness, that's 7,000 or 8,000 riders per mile. Which is
we're talking MBTA subway ridership per mile numbers almost.
And it's just a souped up light rail.
And
I wouldn't say it's a souped up light rail.
Well,
I'd say most light rails are souped down light rails, and Calgary is the standard.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's for the lines going into the suburbs. So I imagine the actual good speeds
this is
helpless.
Yeah.
Speed, frequency, runs every 6 minutes during peak. I believe it used to run more. Mm-hmm. And this is on 2 lines across a surface transit mall, so I would once again like to contest UTA's assertion that you can only run 15 trains over a surface street transit alignment. That is wrong. Calgary used to do at least 22 before the pandemic. So anyway, that's my random rant. But yeah.
No.
And then it doesn't go lower than 15 minutes ever.
What?
Ever? Does it run through the night?
No. I mean,
Okay.
it
Well, when
runs.
it's open.
It runs late, like 12:30. But
Okay. That's pretty good.
Wow. So what's the max? Like 5 minutes?
6?
I think it used to be like 4. Now it's 6.
That's very
I
good.
would not complain about that.
I would not complain about like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had a service that ran 10 minutes, that'd be really nice. So you might be asking, why, if it has these horrible suburban stations surrounded by horrible land use, how does Calgary get so much ridership? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Carrot. It provides a high-quality service. Stick. It's a pain to drive into downtown.
Okay, but that can't account for it. Like, it's a, giant pain to drive into downtown, but, only 60% of downtown office workers pre-pandemic, only 45% of office workers pre-pandemic took the CTrain to work. So there's still a lot of people driving.
Apologies. I am thinking like a
Only
yieldy.
45%, first of all, is something I would like to note. 45% mode share? Whew, for downtown, that's pretty good.
I'm also thinking like a yieldy transit planner where the only trip we're serving is the downtown commute that you can't do by car because
The secret
it's hard.
answer is, despite horrible land use, there's a bus everywhere, and before the pandemic, the bus ran pretty frequently.
Whoa, connecting
Nice.
bus service.
Okay, so imagine you're the most hideous suburban neighborhood you can think of, right?
Okay.
Like-
I have it.
It's picture it in your mind.
Yeah.
Now, imagine down the main, Main Street or whatever of that, there's a bus that comes every 10 minutes during rush hour.
That'd be
You
nice.
have the Calgary suburbs.
Wow. Isn't that just like what they do in most of Canada, is actually have competent bus service?
It's why they get so much ridership. It's why,
UTA having
so much
none.
higher mode share. Calgary is not perfect, but you can get just about anywhere on a bus that comes relatively often.
So it sounds perfect in my eyes.
Meanwhile, Curran's our bus grid.
Yeah. Why
That's how I
doesn't
feel
UTA Trax get very much ridership? I don't know, almost as though it has absolutely piss-poor connecting bus service south of 33rd.
So it's hard to get to.
So it's impossible to get to,
All right.
Unless you want to drive.
which park and rides do not work very well.
Because
Once
why
you're in the
would
car,
just
you
drive
just
the whole
go
way?
get on the freeway.
Well, see, it actually works for my friend's mum, who drives. Now, this isn't a joke, by the way. She drives to Salt Lake Central, I think. Right?
Oh dear.
Parks there, takes front runner down to, I think, Provo, gets in her second car, and drives to work. She has 2 cars for either end.
I just died inside. I hope you know that.
Yeah.
But,
Connecting self-driving pod service.
so, good bus service. Also, I would like to, since I have, as Kyle knows, somewhat changed my opinion on free fare as of late. I know, I'm hurrying.
Oh yeah, what's their farebox recovery rate?
50%.
50%?
50% or higher.
We get like 10.
It's 40% post-pandemic as well. So, the fact is, the reason that transit agencies in America are not recovering revenue from fare is not because of, magic hooliganery. It's
because their
because they
service
run
sucks.
piss-poor service.
It's not because they have more police than us to enforce fares.
No, and Calgary fares are more expensive, yes, but they also have programs for low-income individuals to still be
Yep.
able to ride the train,
Canada.
the bus.
It's almost like people will pay for and use a quality service.
And this is true in Edmonton as well. Both of these cities, which are just the most horrible suburban sprawl you can think of, get great farebox recovery by running good service and getting a lot of people onto their stuff.
If we tried to run 10-minute peak connecting buses around here, we'd get nimbied out of existence.
Well, right, and the reason for this, UTA spends what, $300-some million a year on operations?
Yeah, that's correct.
Over an area of 2.7 million people.
Their service area is like 1.5 or 2.
Well, the National Transit Database listed at 1.856 million or something.
Great.
But anyhow, that's a lot more spread out than Calgary as well. Calgary spends over $400 million on an area the size of only the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, Salt Lake County. So, you're spending more money on less people, and you're getting more transit, and thereby you're making money back, and you can spend that money on transit as well.
It's almost like how it should work, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should turn up the money per person
So if you
knob.
turn up the money per person knob, maybe you'll get some fare recovery back instead of, just being like, oh, well, American transit agencies can never recover fare unless they're New York City or the MBTA or SEPTA, because that would be impossible. And therefore, we must make it free and never improve it again.
We need to turn up the U of U funding knob. So
This is true. Okay, and then we're running out of time because we have a meeting after this, so I'm going to get the rest of this real quick. What's the future? The Green Line. They're building a new line, as I said. It's going to be light. It's going to be low floor. It'll run like the rest of the system in the suburbs. But interestingly, they're going to have high floor light rail on the surface in downtown Calgary and low floor light rail in a subway under downtown Calgary.
Once again, I'm pro doing all high floor, but they're getting nice low floor trains.
Yeah,
we can't really complain that
it's going to kind of fill in the major gap between the two lines, which is the southwest and the north. So
cool.
Well, as long as the levels are boarding, then the boardings are leveled. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it'll open in 2027. I don't know. I might be there.
Guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Also, because of the pandemic, they had to cut some bus routes and service and stuff because,
money and
operators, and they're kind of recovering from that slowly, but they're also trying to, instead of just having, a bus that runs every 20 minutes to everywhere, maybe a bus that runs every 10 minutes.
To slightly fewer places.
Slightly fewer places, but still everywhere.
Or that you might have to walk farther to.
Yeah, you have to walk 10 minutes instead of 5 minutes or whatever.
Okay, I think that balances at about break even, right?
Yeah.
If you're just showing up to catch the bus.
Yeah.
Hell, that might be better than break even.
Yes. So, I think we've already gone over what we can learn, which is the thing here. But basically, high frequency trains, good. High capacity trains, good. Run many buses.
Fast and reliable trains, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And bustitution is planned word for prostitution.
Yes.
So.
Clearly, tantamount to prostitution.
Yeah.
I should find that website called Only Bus.
It's just OnlyFans, but it's
Yep.
the internal mechanics of a bus.
Yeah, I don't think you had to say that, but yeah.
All right, Jacob Whitecotton from Patreon asks, thoughts on Second South construction and design?
I am a big fan in general. I sure wish they'd done protected bike lanes instead of what they've currently decided.
I like that it's going to be easy to convert to protected later because they're doing all the intersections right, which is a first.
I like it. I love the bus islands.
So that's going to be so nice to have dedicated bus lanes on Second South.
I can't wait for the buses to actually run on it. But
and the bus islands, like they said, those things are beautiful.
Those are gorgeous.
Yeah.
They've done a good job.
The city did.
They're
going to
make the bus drivers happy with those in-lane stops. No worrying about cyclists.
Faster.
Oh, definitely.
Probably.
Actually on time.
Yeah, the 2 is notoriously kind of unreliable.
It's been on detour.
The 2 was unreliable when it wasn't on detour.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, big improvements.
Great
I'm
design,
gonna be happy.
huge.
They should get some federal BRT money for this and run articulated buses on the 2 and run it at 10-minute frequency.
Yes, we need the capacity.
Yeah, ask Pete.
So
Secretary Pete.
Yeah, they should get some BRT funding money for that.
Project design isn't perfect. Things that we're going to have to fix later are protected bike lanes.
Yeah.
Obviously, intersections are good there. We're going to have to rip up some of the mid-block crossing bulb outs and move them 6 feet or 8 feet or whatever. And some of if you get farther east towards the university, some of the bus stops they route the bike lane between where the bus stops and the bus shelter.
Oh, good.
Portland has this on their FX2 division.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll probably be fine. I will not be surprised if somebody gets maimed.
Yeah. Well, nobody's going to get maimed. It's a bike. But somebody's going to get run into and break a leg or something.
Yeah. So we're going to have to fix those too. Not hard to do with, time, money, and concrete. And also the bus lanes kind of pitter out towards the university, which is probably fine.
Yeah, well, that's not the part that causes unreliability. So...
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the road is going to be concrete. That would be nice.
I think they're only doing concrete islands.
Oh, I thought the whole thing was concrete.
What roads get paved in concrete ebb and flow depending on how cheap and available the material is.
And
My road
expensive.
is concrete.
It is.
Concrete's
For no
expensive
reason.
right now.
I think hot take, I think concrete is a dumb material to pave roads in. You can't maintain it like you can with asphalt. I know you don't need to maintain it, but you can. So when heavy vehicles go over it, starts chipping and crumbling and getting all bumpy, and you can't do anything about it. It's loud as hell when they put the texture on it that's good for, drainage or whatever.
Oh, well, just for gripping the road.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So way louder than even the loudest of asphalts when you have road vehicles go over it. And it's a waste of an expensive material that's not very good for the environment and is actually, incredibly important for building, buildings.
So, a great material to rebuild I-80 with.
No,
that's what they did.
I know.
Yeah.
They do it on I-15 too. It makes the freeway louder and So just be like the Netherlands. Use well-maintained asphalt for everything, and have
quiet asphalt, quiet tires.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Netherlands
Please.
actually does this, and they repave things every 10 years because they use weaker asphalt that is better for drainage and quieter, and they're capable of doing maintenance unlike the entire US of A.
The greatest country on earth.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other thoughts about Second South?
No, what's the BRT question?
All right. Jacob Whitecotton on Patreon asks, what are your thoughts on the new BRT projects? Mid-Valley BRT, 5600 West Max, etc.
Why? Let me elaborate what I mean by that. Because I understand the need for improved bus service in those areas. What I don't understand is why we're not doing fully dedicated lanes and we're not creating infrastructure that other bus routes can utilize in the future.
The more BRT projects UTA builds, the more and more they tend away from BRT and towards a road expansion in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Take the Mid-Valley Connector, for example. The part with the dedicated lanes is entirely along the absolutely huge, god-awful Strode. If we lived in a sane country, they could just repurpose 2 of the car lanes on the Strode as bus lanes, and we could be off to the races.
Expand the
but
road.
they are going to widen just the Strode to put dedicated bus lanes on it, and not put dedicated bus lanes anywhere else, because they don't feel like widening those extra places.
Yeah.
So it's not an effective use of bus lanes
And
either.
my thing with BRT is that, the whole idea of a bus lane is that you're supposed to be able to run, a lot of buses through it. And so by creating those sort of, center platforms where only the BRT buses with the doors on the left side
I'm going to give you a correction here on the Mid-Valley one.
Oh, that's right.
Because the buses drive on the wrong side of the road, so they can use regular buses.
Yeah.
Which is even
creating dumb infrastructure choices like that, or on UVX where you have to have the special buses to run through this, dedicated corridor that we could be running a whole bunch of buses through at different places, but we can't do that, is not a good use of funds. And if you're going to be building a bus project, it should be more like Second South, better stops, bus lanes that all buses can use.
Also straight.
And not a giant Strode.
Yeah.
And less OGX, the Mid-Valley Connector,
Also note
and to an extent UVX.
Also note how on Second South we're not in fact widening the street. We're taking 2 of the 5 car lanes and using them for buses.
Right. That's another good point.
So Second South good, Mid-Valley bad, 5600 West. What the hell? Just put the bus on the road.
Well, and the funny thing about 56th West to me is that they're planning to build a Trax Line there in the future, so they're doing the whole thing of why build it once when you can build it twice?
Or 3 times.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are planning to build it 3 times, aren't they?
The latest 5-year service plan does have a bus route running up either
Oh,
there
good.
or 48th West. I forget which one, to the airport and then to downtown.
Huh?
Which it's just a bus. No complaints. Bus good.
Yeah.
Green one, no less.
Any thoughts?
I agree. I don't have too much to say. I don't know the projects well enough.
Fair enough.
The bloody slick bus stop they're doing. Oh
Slick bus stop?
So this requires some insight into the alignment. So the Mid-Valley Connector BRT project goes on some weird windy roads out of Murray Central, which I'm sure won't take forever. Goes into the weird wrong side of the road alignment in the center of the strode that they're expanding. Due to some quote-unquote property acquisition issues, which sounds like we didn't try hard enough to acquire this empty field and parking lot, it needs to make a right turn at a strode intersection to make a left turn on, I believe, Redwood into the slick parking lot entrance, where it's going to make a right turn into this weird, like, circular saw blade-shaped bus hub, which they're building from scratch because we couldn't use existing infrastructure or make it straight. And then it has to come back out the same parking lot entrance, which I'm sure is never crowded and never has signal timing issues, to go back and then turn back onto the main road, and then turn on a different, less strody strode to go to West Valley Central.
Good.
Ooh.
Dumb road expansion, dumb alignment, lack of frequency. They're only running 10 to 15 minutes, and they're only running regular buses. This project should not be a project.
Wow.
It should just be, hey, we're going to put in a bus lane. Sucks to suck if you're not going to ride the bus.
Yeah.
In a more positive note, Jacob Whitecotton, in a follow-up question, asks, maybe include other UTA expansion plans like the Orange Line, Blue Line extension, if that ever happens. Complete front-runner double tracking and electrification, or maybe unofficial ones like the Rio Grande plan. My opinion, do all of these things. They're good.
And do them soon. So
I want to focus on something he didn't mention that we were supposed to have, 10 years ago.
And what was that?
The Davis County Trax Line.
Instead of the 455 and 470.
Those would remain.
Oh, okay.
Local service, good.
Right.
But in the original, days of Trax, there was, strong support in Davis County and, almost a need for an extension into Davis County to where Farmington Station is now.
Mm-hmm.
But a Trax line instead of just front runner. And I think that is probably, of the axes of, linear expansion, actually, expanding rather than just improving service with, the Orange Line plan or the Rio Grande plan.
It's more useful than the Lehigh
That
extension.
is probably the strongest axis of expansion I can think of, because unlike Utah County, Davis County is still primarily a bedroom community for Salt Lake County.
It's not developing its own
There is
urban
no
core.
There
like
is
Lehigh.
no urban core in Davis County. There are basically no jobs.
And there's also a lot
Davis
of
County.
linear build stuff between Salt Lake and Davis County, unlike Point of the Mountain where there's nothing.
Right, it's a very linear corridor. You could serve it pretty easily with one rail line.
Next to Highway 89, not in Highway 89. Screw you, FRA.
Or better yet,
Above Highway 89, but that would make the sky fall over.
no, my bad.
Yeah. Carl's right.
Yeah.
So, I think that's being really slept on as something that should be considered as a priority in terms of transit expansion in the valley, or in the region, I should say.
I would like to see Frontlines Part 2, where we do the good contracting and project management and bundle 10 years worth of Trax projects into one project.
So we do the Trax extension all the way to Provo and all the way into Davis County, all at once, and also
Yes,
build the
and
Orange Line, the
also
Rio
Rio
Grande
Grande.
plan, and double track and electrify front runner to, Payson and Brigham City or whatever.
Yep.
Ooh. That'd be nice.
Yep.
And the state doesn't saddle UTA with $1 bazillion worth of debt.
Literally just take a couple years of highway money.
And I don't care about congestion.
These projects provide a viable alternative to wasting your life in congestion.
If you want to sit in traffic, you are free to do so. You can also take Trax.
It's your God-given right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
We're not building transit to help people with cars. We're building transit to help people on transit. So
Yeah.
get out of your car and get on the transit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my goodness, I read this stupid thing online where somebody was being anti-S-Line because it, quote, hasn't solved traffic on 21st South.
Ooh.
Bruh, ride the S-Line.
Well, it doesn't solve traffic on 21st South because you're continuing to choose to drive on 21st South rather than take the S line. Which I can say personally is faster than driving to, Central Point to Sugar House. Like, there's driving on 21st sucks. I don't know why anyone does it.
It's a terrible road too.
I hope they take away lanes and do something to make sure the bus can get through there in one piece.
They did a proposal recently for the State Street to 7th
Sweet
section.
Street. Well, yeah.
Sweet Street's
it is going to
not
happen.
Gonna happen.
Something's going to happen. It's in the bond reconstruction.
Yeah,
from 7th to 13th.
I saw people getting mad about that. Like,
Sweet Street's is going to shove for the minimum lane count one, which I think is the right option.
Definitely.
It's a place for people.
Always minimum lane count.
Yeah, you should push for what
even
you
on
want.
A freeway. Even on a freeway, we should push for the minimum lane count.
2 lanes.
Less lanes are actually
2 lanes.
Yeah.
Safer and better for traffic flow on freeways.
2 lanes either direction, and then a 5-lane flex lane. So.
5-lane peak direction flex in the middle.
Then you can do quad track.
Except you can't get out at Salt Lake City of the center section.
Yeah, you can only get out in Murray and Farmington.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're listening on YouTube, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, please remember to follow us and leave a rating. They actually help, and we actually have an official rating on Spotify now since we've had 20 different reviews.
Wow.
It's a 5 stars out of 5.
I thought it was a 4.9.
It changed because someone else left a review. So
cool.
Thanks to that person for getting us
you.
a perfect review on Spotify.
Yeah, let's keep it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our patrons are Curtis Herring, Mike Christensen, Phobos2390, Zach Adams at Frontrunner tier, $10 a month.
At $5 a month, our Red Line tier, we have Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, Jacob Wright, Cotton, and Robert P. Walsh.
$3 a month, Blue Line, we have Alex Stakelski, Ben Busath, DJ Will Watkins.
Hi, Will.
Ethan McDonald, Jack Dean, John Heron Gorman, Just Cuz, Martine Hecker Martinez, Old Trolley, Scott Harris, and Seth.
Yeah, you Blue Liners are crazy.
Yeah, you Blue Liners are crazy. We're going to start having trouble with this pretty soon. But yeah, if you like what we do and you want more, you should consider subscribing to our Patreon. We have theoretically an extra episode every month, and you get early access to all of our regular content as well.
Yeah, and crazy stuff.
And theoretically merch.
Yeah, theoretically merch someday.
Someday.
Did you get the second Patreon episode out?
It's like half edited. It'll be out this week.
Okay.
I said last week.
Yeah.
So there will be 2 episodes up.
Yeah, 2 Patreon episodes. One is
when
on.
you hear this.
One is on the high speed lines, and the other is on downtown people movers. And so you should definitely.
And they're both very good episodes, worth your money.
Yeah, they're fun episodes. Yeah. We do fun episodes on the Patreon.
Yeah. Well, we get paid for fun.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. See ya.